Do you guys have any question? Do you guys have set up your account? Any issue there? Kalpana, did you set up your account in
Yeah,
community?
Ravi, I did.
So you are able to see your practice environment?
Yeah, yes.
Perfect. How about you, Venkat?
Yeah, I did.
And Venkatesh, how about you?
I have it already. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Cool. So, you guys have anything in your mind, like any use case that we can use for POC while training? Any use case like inventory management, a- amount transfer, new account opening, customer onboarding, such thing? Anything if you wanted to go with? Come on, guys. Suggestions?
Uh, Maybe new account opening would be.
Okay. So we'll try both. What we'll do, we'll do one customer onboarding, and
Mm-hmm.
then we also customer onboarding for a bank, and then we can also try to create an account for them, right?
And
Shall we do the supplier onboarding?
Sorry, what is that, Venkat?
Supplier onboarding means
Supply
supplier
supplier. It means like to
vendor
register
onboard vendor.
any vendors, right? Third party vendors.
Yeah, it means when we are accepting the vendor, right? Some of the organizations they actually evaluate a vendor a lot with the multiple questions and they
Mm,
ask for
okay.
documentation like the quality and the financial statements.
Mm-hmm.
Then they review the total based on what's vendor actually answered it. Depends
Okay.
on that. They analyze and finally it goes into the multiple levels of approvals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
we can have that.
finally,
Yeah.
they collect the information also in the on the way that like bank account details, vendor locations, manufacturing process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we
Yeah,
can have
major.
that.
I'm talking about the supply chain.
Right, right. I got it. I got it. So yeah, we can do that. Not an issue. It's just the supply chain management is a huge process, right?
Yeah.
And it can include a lot of things. Uh, See, approval, we can go for the multiple level of approvals as well. We can go for that, but I'm only concerning about that. Can we able to complete a one working application at the end of the training? So yeah, definitely we can do that. That's not an issue. I was thinking if we can like customer onboarding and the vendor onboarding is almost same thing. You also need to provide the documentation there, right?
Yeah. And the question is the
Uh,
supplier has to answer.
right. But here in the customer onboarding, you don't have to answer anything, and that's one change is there, right? So if you guys okay, we can go with that. But the only concern is that we will be able to complete that because it's a huge process, supplier, right? What do you guys say? Let's do the voting then. Customer onboarding, account opening, plus account opening, or the supplier chain.
will we be, can we do
Ravi, in that
both, Ravi?
scenario,
Customer on.
Oh, sorry, one
yeah,
You
more.
go
in
Yes,
ahead.
that
yes.
scenario, supply chain management can be given as like assignments or tasks for them.
Any any POC we can give assign a task. That's not an issue. Right. So that's not a problem. Okay, let's go with the. You're saying something, Kalpana, as well. Go ahead.
Uh, can we do both, Ravi, like supply chain management and customer onboarding? We can be given as POC to us.
See, that's on you guys, right? If you wanted to do the practice on the different POC, you can definitely do that. I welcome that thing because that's a good thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
But people end up copy pasting the code because if you go with the same POC, so if you are able to do that, customer onboarding by yourself, then we can go for the supply chain management, right?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So let's go with the supply chain, and
Mm-hmm.
the requirement would be like we will as a company we will be opening any a vacancy for let's say peripherals suppliers. We need a peripheral supplier, so anyone can vote for that. They can provide their details. They wanted to register themselves, so we can have a documentation process where they can upload their documents, and then they also that needs to be get approval. Now the question arises here is that how they will be providing the document, because we cannot create the account for the suppliers directly, right? Until unless they are not registered, we should not be creating the accounts for them, isn't it? Right. So they need to provide the documents through the email process, and then uh, the users of the bank users, right, they have to upload those documents on behalf of the suppliers, right? Or other thing is that we need to publish some API services where they can send the document through via some processes, right? That is also one of the things. But for that, they should have some API configured from their end so that they can send the document, right? We cannot have the DocuSign services. Otherwise, we could have uploaded the document to the DocuSign, because that's a paid version. But what we will do is that as a part of process, we can request the document via email, and that the user of the company, employee of the company, can upload that document on behalf of the vendors. Is that okay? Make sense?
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So yes, we are going to create an application for supply chain management, right? We'll see more, when we'll start the working on the application, we'll see more scenarios will come during the development phase, and then we'll see how to tackle that and how to overcome that, and then all those things, right? So yeah. So when we talk about the supply chain management, the first thing is that we should be creating an application in Appian with the proper naming, that it's a supply chain management, and we should be having some things. So before going all those areas, let me show you what are the components object type we have in Appian, which will be used to develop the application. Okay, so let me quickly share my screen. We will just have a quickly walkthrough of each and every object, and then when we will be covering those topics, we will be covering all in details. Okay, all right. So let me share my screen quickly. I can't see the application. There you go. Hope you guys can see my screen, right? So I hope every one of you have already configured your Appian designer practice environment, right? So where you can go and practice. Yes, anyone is pending? No, everyone has this environment. Perfect. All right. So we'll start from the creating the application, and then see what are the objects can be used in Appian to develop a basic application, right? So how do we first, let me first introduce you this tab, right? This page. This is, if you see that this is a base URL of your environment, and then we have a design. The design shoot, the suite, and then design suite is available for the developers, where they can go and do the development. Okay, they will create the applications, objects, and everything. If you see here, there's a navigation icon. If you click on this navigation icon, right now very minimal thing is there, but when you actually work in your application, when you get your uh, company's access and all, right, you will see admin console, database, tempo, all those things you can see it here, right? So what is the admin console and all? So admin console is a one of the another shoot where you can go and do some administration configuration, like setting the branding of your application, branding of your site, what are the documents you wanted to upload, or what are the documents type you wanted to restrict to your application, and then you can create a new users, set their type like system admin user or a basic user, and then if you go to the cloud database tab, so that is for the in-house database. those are still there. It's just the Appian has restricted those things because people were creating many users in the practice environment, and then misusing that. So that's why it has been restricted now. Okay. So, and below you can see all the sites that is being created. So initially Appian was using tempo page to do the applications work, but now Appian has upgraded to the sites where you can actually use the websites to perform all those works. All right, so how do we create? And let me show you one more thing, like what are the tabs that we have in the left hand side. So first of all, we have applications. This particular will have all the applications created in your environment. You can have more than one application created in one environment. Okay. And then second option is that objects. It will list the list of the objects that we have. So you can see object type. These are the object type that is used in application development. Once you filter based on the type, you will be able to see all those objects here. These objects are irrespective of the application. If you want to see the objects based on a particular application, you need to simply click on the application name, and inside also you will see a build where you can see all your objects listed here. So these objects are based on the application wise. However, the topmost object tab is irrespective of the application. Third tab is the deployment. This basically uh, has the you can say the audit for all the deployment that has been deployed to this environment, and from this environment to other environment, if you have deployed anything, you will be able to see it here. So this is for the deployment tab. Another is the monitor. This monitor tab is very important because whatever is going on in your process in the behind the scene, you will be able to see all those application instances here. Basically, this monitor tab shows you the running instances of your process models. Okay, so if you want, if something goes wrong in your process model instance, so if you want to check, you need to come here and then see what goes wrong with your process instances. And then we have a user tab. Basically it display the list of the users that we have in the applications, right? Okay, so applications. So once we go, as we decided we need to create an application, so we are going to create an application. Let's say we can create a new application, and I'll give the name as supply chain management. So what is the prefix? Prefix is usually it takes the first character of your each word just to define that this is the prefix of your each and every object that we will be creating. So whatever object we will create in Appian, that will start from SCM. If you want, you can also change the prefix, but you have to make sure that this prefix is not being used anywhere else. This also helps you to understand what is the object that is created by you or that which is for your application. Okay. If you use the same prefix, then you might get confused that this object is used for my application or some other application. You can definitely know by the name of the developer and then by checking a dependency, but it's a best practice that you should be keeping your prefix unique. Okay. We can put a nice description of the application. You can say that an application to handle to onboard vendors, right? Now what is this checkbox is about? This checkbox says that generate the groups and folders to secure and organize the objects. Whatever the object we will be creating, we will be creating multiple objects, like we will be creating expression rules, we will be creating interfaces, process models. So all those things can be kept in a separate kind of folders. So what Appian does is that it will automatically create those folders for you. If you don't check this checkbox, nothing will happen. It's just you have to create those folders manually, right? Apart from the folders, Appian also creates two groups. One group is a system admin group and another group is a viewer group. These are the two basic groups that we will require for a working application. So what an admin can do? Admin can do anything. If you are putting a user into the system administrator group, they can delete a rule, they can create a rule, they can update a rule, whatever they can do everything. If you are going to put a users in the viewer group, they will be the user who will be simply using the application. They cannot delete anything, they cannot create anything, but they can access your application. They can take an action on it, they can raise a request, whatever is going to be there, they can do that. So the end users basically we will be putting those end users to the viewer group. So if you don't check this checkbox, all those 7 objects had to be created manually. It's just for your easiness. Appian has given this option that because that is required for all the applications, you just simply check this checkbox and click on generate create. You see this administrator group has been created. So there might be in this practice environment someone has already created the administrators SCM administrator group. That's why the reason it is taking one as a you know to make it unique. So that's the reason. I say save. Now this application content has been created. Let me go back. You see this supply chain management has been created. Okay, and then we can see if I go inside, we have all these tabs. So if you go to the build, you will see these 7 items has been created. So what are the 7 items? 2 groups, 1 folder, that is process model folder. So whatever process model we will be creating will be the part of this particular folder. And then we have,
One quick question, Ravi.
yeah, go ahead.
The SCM users one,
Right.
it means that does that have all the uh, company users as well as the supplier users in that group?
No, no, no. It's just the application group that we have created. Whoever we wanted to give the access of this application as a end users to use this application, we will put those users into this group.
Okay. Okay.
Right.
All the end users comes into the SCM
Right.
users one.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And the users, because every application should have an admin as users as well, right? The system admins, those users we will put into the system administrator group. Okay. All right. Now we can see there's something called folder, process model folder. So whatever the process model we will be creating throughout our application development, those objects, those process model will be stored into this particular folder, process model folder. Okay. Same way, you can see there is another folder called document folder. If you want to upload any document into the system, if you want to create any document into the system, those documents should be part of these document folders. So there are 2 document folders that Appian creates for you, and then we have one knowledge center. Now what's a knowledge center? Knowledge center is basically a repository, a final or we can say a parent repository of all the document folders that we create inside the application. So if I click on this knowledge center, you will be see that those 2 document folders are part of it. Not the process model folder, not any rule folder, but the document folder are part of the knowledge center. So knowledge center is the parent repository of all the documents folder that we will be creating inside our application. And then finally we have one rule folder. So this rule folder will contain all the expression rules, interface rules, constants we will be creating in the application. We will be keeping it into this role. Okay. Any question till here, guys? So this is a structure that Appian has created and given to you. We can definitely use this. If you don't check that checkbox, all this object has to be created manually.
Can you please explain again that on the knowledge center?
So knowledge center is basically the parent repository of the application.
Oh,
The n number, you can create n number of document folder. All the document folders should be part of your knowledge center. You cannot create document folder without a knowledge center. Okay,
got it.
it's a parent repository. Okay, is that clear, everyone? Any question? We have people. Any question, guys? Is that clear?
Yes, Ravi.
All right. Okay. So what are the objects that we have in our application? How do we create those objects? If you see here, these are the object type that we have. what are the objects type we are going to use in our training session, and what is the use of that, we'll see. So if you see, these are for the filters, but if you want to create any object, you can simply click on the new. It will list you all the object type that we have in our application to be created. So first is the record type. Very important. We'll start with the record type itself. So what is the record type? As I mentioned the other day as well, the record type is kind of, you can say, a directory which allows you to create a table in the backend, which allows you to add the data to the backend, which allows you to display the data to the front end, which allows you to take an action on the data, which allows you to add the relationship. So most of the things in Appian you can do using the recorders. So very powerful tool. You can combine two different records to have a view of your data combining together, right? Just like you join the table in database and then see one table, right? Same thing you can also achieve in the record. All right. It also gives you the visual representation of your data. You can have a summary view of your data. It can have audit trail of your data. So all those things, if you wanted, you can have it in the record type, right? So we'll start with the record type itself, and we'll see how more in details, like what kind of record type we have in our system, and how do we create those. We'll see all those things. Second is the process model. The process model, as I mentioned, right, process model is to define the workflow of your application. Let's say if you wanted to uh, once you submit your data, you wanted to proceed for like sending an email, and then you wanted to generate a new task for someone. All those things, if you wanted to achieve, you need to create a process model for that. You can also take a decision on the process model based on the data input, based on the action taken, which path it has to take. So all those things you can perform by using a process model. The process report. So what is a process report? Let me go back and then open this monitor tab. Process report is basically is the raw data of your, which says the information about your process instances. So if you remember, when you click on this monitor, not sure why it's not opening now, but whenever we open this monitor tab, we see that this particular instance started at this particular time, ended this particular time. This is the status of the instance. So all those details of raw details of any process model that you wanted to know, you can create a process report for that, and that process report data you can convert to the actual data that can be displayed to the on the UI, front end UI. So that is a example of process report that we create in our application, which will be required whenever we will be wanted to know what are the tasks is available into the system. We will be creating a process report for that. Okay. Not sure why it's not opening, but we'll check later. Okay. Okay, what next? So we have robotic task. As I mentioned, this robotic task RPA things will not be part of our session. These are the different session altogether, which has a more than like 2 months of course of robotic task and all, which we can include as a bots in our process model. That's a other thing. So robotic task and robotic poll, we will not be touching it. Now we have interface. So interface are basically that we will be designing the interface UIs for the end users, which is a part of the our application. We'll see how to display the form for onboarding of vendors. We'll see how to display the data, how to display a charts, how to create a front end page or the landing page of our site. All those details we can create by using the interface. Report, basically if you wanted to generate any report with the help of any charts and all, so this report is again just simple object to be displayed in the report tab, but it also require an interface objects to be created first. So we'll be creating an interface which will be holding your charts and all, and then we need to create this report. Any question till here, guys? First of all, yeah. No? Okay. Now, sorry, Venkat, your voice is breaking.
Hi, Harsha. This is
Can you come again?
Are you able to hear
Uh,
me, Harsha?
I can, but it's a very noise.
Yeah, how to
Hey,
connect with the
Gonja, can you
interface to process model, Harsha?
just type it out? Anyone else is able to hear him?
It is breaking a lot.
Right. Yeah. So, Gonja, can you please write it? Put it in the chat, please. Your voice is
I
breaking a lot.
have a doubt.
Yeah. Go
Yeah,
ahead, Tarun.
yeah, yeah. So, how do we set permissions for security permissions for one process model or any instance, like for rule input, as you said? Sorry, not rule input. What is data type? We were creating something, na?
Right.
Record type. Yeah.
Right.
How do we set permissions for that?
So you have a security label for each object. Let me show you. Let's say, let me see any other object. Um, let's say this is a record type that we have, right? I can select any record, and then you see the security here. So it you can allow the securities here. You can add more securities. You can restrict the security whatever you want to have. You can provide a securities here based on your requirement. Let's say if you wanted to provide the system admin group as a system administrator role, you can have administrator role. If you wanted to provide the user one as a viewer role, we can have it. So let me show you the one that we have created. So right now, if you remember, right, we created one folders. So let's say for example, this process model folder, select this, and if you go to the security, so at least this is the minimum Appian will set it for you. It will provide the administrator group as an admin role, and then user one it will provide the viewer role. So viewer role is the minimum is required to work on an application. What are the roles that we have? We have admin, editor, viewer, and deny. Like if you want to provide any specific group that they should not have access of this particular record, you can select that group name and then you can say deny, right? So for individual objects you can select a different altogether different securities. Is that answer your question?
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Got it.
Thank you. Right.
Thanks.
Gojek, did you type it out? Your message, your voice was breaking a lot. I couldn't hear you. Can you please send in the chat? Gojek Kumar, you there? Right. If you can please type it out, it will be good. Okay. All right. Anyone else has any questions still what we have discussed so far? All right. And then we have a site. As I said, right, we need to create a site so that end users can go and work. If you go and work with your application, we also have one page called Tempo, but Tempo is a very old and it's out of box feature of Appian itself, but it's a very old where you cannot have restrictions that I need to only work on this application. The Tempo is if you have part of 10 applications, all the 10 tasks will come at the same page. All the 10 application you have, we can see on the action tab, so it will be very confusing for the users, right? So but site is specific to an application. Portals, very interesting topic that Appian has recently launched. This portal, the portal is basically a page, a web page which allows users to access the Appian, very limited access, but though which doesn't require authentication. For an example, if you wanted to track your Indian postal services, right? If you want to track that, do you need to log into your Indian post office page? It's a question. If you wanted to track your consignment, right? Let's say your parcel or something
Yeah.
in the Indian Post Office, do you need to log
No
in?
access required.
No access is required, right? You just have to log in. You have to provide your um, the registration number, and then based on that, they can provide you the details. Okay, here is your package, right? Same way, Appian has also introduced its portal services with some limited services to you. Like you cannot work on your application, but let's say if you wanted to post some questions to the Appian, companies, if you wanted to do some ratings kind of things, right? Those things you can perform by using this portals. Okay, that's what the use of this portal. Okay, all right. And then we have expression rules. Expression rules are the um, kind of supporting rules that we will be using in our application developments. Let's say if you wanted to query the data from the database, we will be using this expression rules to design the code for it. If you wanted to do certain calculation, we will be using this expression rule. It's kind of like a supporting object that helps you to do some calculations, do some queries and bring the data. Okay. Another is that AI skills. AI skill again is the part of your robotics process and artificial intelligences, which we will not be creating out. And then we have a decision. So let's say if I ask you to write a code, let's say if input is equal to A, display apple. If input is equal to B, display ball. If input is equal to C, then display cat. Likewise, if you wanted to go till Z, right? So what code comes into your mind? At any point of time, only one input could be there. So what is the code that is coming into your mind? How you will write it? Pseudocode. At least give me pseudocode, not the any or any other specific language is fine. If this is the if I give you a character as an input, I need associate uh, you know uh, word out of it, right? So how do you write your code?
We
Anyone?
give input as in one input argument we have to give,
Right,
and then from user we get the input.
right. From user we get the input, and then you need to return the output. But
Listening
yes,
variable and if condition using if condition.
yeah, you will use a if condition, right? So how you will write your if condition?
If variable equal to this
Hmm. So
display.
you will be using a nested if, right? If variable is equal to A, display apple, else if variable is equal to B, display ball, right? So it will go to the nested ifs. So imagine we have 26 characters or 26 if condition, you will be writing it out, right? Imagine if you have 1,000 characters inputs. So the code will be very huge, isn't it? How long the code will go, which is not a good practice of a coding. So Appian has come with a decision table, and what it has done is that it has designed the code decision table in a such a way that users simply, just like imagine upon an Excel sheet. So in the input column you mention A, output column you mention apple, input column you mention B, output column you mention ball. So you have all characters and a particular row for each input, and whatever input you will pass, it will return the data to you, right? So that makes a code very easy to understand and very easy to handle as well, right? So that's what the decision table is about. We'll see one of the examples how do we do that, but this was a quick discussion about the decision. You got it? Any question out here in the decisions? It has given you a structure as an Excel sheet. Let's say these are the columns. You mention A as input and the output you say apple, B ball, C cat. Likewise you have to write the code. You don't have to write the code as a nested if. Okay. Then comes the constant. Constant is, uh, as the name suggests, right, it's a constant value which doesn't change. So if you wanted to use one value more than one places, we need to create a constant for that. Right. Now let's say we have used supply chain management as our application name, and imagine we have 10 interfaces where everywhere we are displaying supply chain management, and then business says that, you know, instead of supply chain management, can we please change the name to supply chain application, right? That's a business requirement. Even though it's a silly, it's a business requirement, you need to do that. So if you want to change that word from supply chain management to supply chain application, what you need to do? All the 10 places interfaces you have to visit and change that word from management to application, right? Imagine instead of using this word supply chain management directly to the interfaces, we have created a text type constant and mentioned there, and all the other 10 places we have used this constant. Now if business says that we need to change this to supply chain management to application, we just need to modify the constant and it will reflect all the places, right? Got the use of the constant, what it can do? We can also create a constant of type folder, document, process model, because there are certain functions in Appian which require a proper input type. If there is a function called document, so document functions require an input as a document. If you provide the document name, it will say, oh come on, this is a text type you are giving to me, this is not a document. So if you want that document to be passed properly, we need to create a constant for it, right? We'll see when we used to create this constant. Transition set, again, it's part of the AIs. We are not touching that, but yes, these are the important: connected system, integration, and API. Whenever you wanted to integrate with a third party, whenever you wanted to send the data to the third party and bring the data from the third party, we will be using this connected system, integration, and APIs, right? So what is a connected system? Connected system allows you to establish the connections with the third party and then send and receive the data. Integration, if you want to bring the data from third party to Appian, we will be creating integration object. Otherwise, if you want to expose your Appian data to third party, we will be creating an web APIs. Okay, so this is a very famous question they use to ask in Appian, what's the difference between integration and Appian? People get quite confused, they will try to confuse you. In integration, we will be sending the data, right? So how can we will be sending the data through the request body, so how come it is going to be why not it's an API? Because we are sending data, we are not bringing the data, so that's wrong. So we are sending data through the request body to bring the data in, right? So that's why we are going to use integration, right? So they will try to confuse you, so don't get confused. Integration is always to bring the data from third party to Appian. Web API is always like to expose the Appian data to third party. Okay, any doubt here? Is that clear? All right, now we have document. So as I said, right, if you wanted to create any document in the system, if you want to upload any document for your like the vendor management, we will be asking more and more document from them, right? So we can have that document created here, which will be captured into the document folder of knowledge centers, right? And then we have a group. As I said, we right now Appian gives you two groups. Let's say if you wanted to create more and more groups, like reviewer 1, reviewer 2, all those things, you can create a group for that, and then you can have a associated member to be part of that group so that they can take an action. Okay. Group type is basically to define a group type, like it's a custom group type, or if you wanted to define based on your application, it's just to, because there could be like system admin, right? System administrator is a common group, it can be in many other applications, right? So if you wanted to define a group type based on your own application type, you can simply define a group type. Very minimal use, but yeah, it's there. Then we have a feed. A feed is basically if you wanted to uh, feed a news for your application, like this vendor has been onboarded successfully, you can do that, right? So those, for those terms, the feed is being used. And then we have folders. So folder, we have different type of folders. We have process model folder, we have rule folder, we have document folder, and then we have knowledge center. Knowledge center is a name of the knowledge center, but it's a kind of a folder only, which is a parent folder for all the document folders, right? So those are the objects, these are the objects that we have, which we will be using for in our application development process to develop our application. Any question so far? Everything is clear? Yes, no? Am I audible?
Uh, as of now, it is theoretical. It's
Alright. Okay. Cool then. Alright then. So whoever has not created their account in Appian community, please do that. Um, get your own practice environment. Go through the recording. Who has someone has joined late, and then we can come up with the questions for tomorrow, and tomorrow we'll start the actual development for our application. The task for today is that think about the what is the first table you will create for your supply chain management. Okay, show me the think process of yours. What is the first thing you wanted to create a supply chain management? If you have to start, what is the first UI it will be, what is the first data model it would be, right? Think about it and come with the suggestions. And yeah, right. uh Kurja Kumar, I sorry, I couldn't we couldn't hear you, your voice was breaking a lot. Not sure if you have put the question in the chat yet. I don't see it. All right, guys. Let's connect tomorrow then, and then we can continue for creating the application. I hope today you understand what are the objects we have in Appian. Okay.
Hi, I have another question now, not
Go ahead.
regarding, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
not regarding to what we learned. Oh, but uh, after the end of the course, will we get guidance for Appian certification as well?
Yes, definitely. See, if you go through the application, I mean, whatever we'll create, right, you should be able to create the level one certification, right? In terms of the
Okay,
guidance, if you're thinking about a questions type and all right, so we try to get some questions as I mentioned earlier as well that nowadays we are taking the exams on the video mode, so it's very difficult to take a screenshot or you cannot take an image of the questions. But we'll try to get some because let's say if you appear in the exam, you remember few questions, you share with us, then we try to share with all of them, right? So those things we do,
okay,
but you should be able to clear your level one certification at least.
okay. After the end of the course, right?
Right, right, right.
Okay. We get some sort of documents as well, like these are the things which we need to study.
Appian
These are the
has
questions.
Appian community has a very nicely designed documentation process. It has very well details available, right? If you want, we can create a document out of it. We'll copy paste. Otherwise, we can share the link where you can go and see the documentation. If you want to learn
Okay,
any of the functions, you just type it in the Appian community. It will give you the details of your that function about, right? So
okay,
let me know if you need anything. We can share with that. But yeah, Appian has very nicely designed documentation for its all the topics with the
sure.
example.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other question, guys? No. All right then. We are done for today. I will correct over the same
Sir,
time. Hmm.
can you share the link of Appian documentation?
Sure. There you go. I have added into the chat. You can access that. Okay.
Yes, sir. Okay, sir.
All right. All right, guys. Then let's connect tomorrow, and then we can proceed for development phase. Right. Thank you.